truth is truth. Most people don't know it, and most people aren't free. So you have to experience the truth for it to become bringing that freedom and liberty to us. So, be loved. That's the best thing I think anyone can do, is to let God love them. That will empower them and enable them and inspire them to love others. Again, you can name somebody that, but actually, how are you treating them? How giving someone a name at birth is not the same as reinforcing that name in their life. So long as they're reinforcing the name by encouraging them to be themselves, and therefore success would be being who God's created them to be, that would be success. Then that word could be a pressure. We've named you this because we want you to succeed, and you have to succeed, and you've got to get good school grades, and you've got to get a good job. And that could be a huge pressure, as well as a positive thing if it was seen from the other perspective of, this is your identity. You will prosper and succeed. But what does it mean? And I think to be able to identify what that means to the person, how much has the mother affirmed what she meant, or has she just let it, that's her name, and let life discover what it means? Therefore I think words are not just enough without the support of the word in outworking. So you could say, well, love, God is love, and we're all going to focus on God is love. But if you don't experience what love is, again, love could have very different connotations. Therefore, it's not just the word, is what is the intention and the intent and the meaning of the word and the experience of the word that will actually shape what that word means for somebody. And what could be a huge pressure for somebody could be a huge blessing for somebody else, depending on the environment that is in. And no one would obviously know unless you sort of were able to observe what the environment for that child was like that nurtured them into the true meaning of success.
So is that old line, actions speak louder than words? Is that true?
I think so. Because in a sense, you can say anything like, I forgive you. But if you haven't forgiven from the heart and you still carry the record of what they've done, and every time you see them, you're still annoyed on the inside, you haven't forgiven them at all. Can you truly actually say you want the best for them? That would indicate that you've truly forgiven them. Otherwise, it's just words, and words can be very empty if they're not backed up. And therefore it's got to be, the word has to be an expression of the meaning of that word in action. For me, otherwise it's just a word.
I'm trying to tie what we're talking about right now with when I used to be years ago back in the faith movement. I was getting up and confessing about 45 minutes, an hour of confessions every morning to put myself on the right track permanently. And I look back now, even the words I was speaking, I'm not even certain I understood what they meant.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know if I hit it anyway.
Yeah. Because essentially what that system was a protocol around principles which were really trying to make something happen without truly understanding the reality of what it was. So a lot of people who may have really understood how to apply positive thinking in an intention to be able to see something manifest, for others, they were just repeating parrot fashion words, hoping something would happen. And for a lot probably never really did. And therefore they probably got disillusioned with it all and gave up, because it was, as you say, well, did it work? What difference has that made? And in reality, it's like just saying a word over and over again doesn't mean anything. Even meditating in a word, if you don't encounter what's behind the word, really is just you focusing on a word, hoping that word is going to mean something to you. So for me, meditation would be engaging in the full experience of essentially who God is, because I'm not going to meditate on anything other than God, because he is where the truth is. So in any sense of, if I'm going to meditate I'm going to meditate, fixing my thoughts and thinking around who God is, encountering him. Otherwise, it can become a disconnected process. Am I meditating to find God, or am I encountering God in the meditation? And they're two very things. And I guess we learn. So we may start with, well, I'm trying to connect to God here in this meditation, which is great. And then move into, well, I am connecting with God. Therefore, meditation is not really the issue. The connection is. And so I don't really think about meditating. I just engage with God, in a sense. So that's my experience, which I come from a place of rest and relaxation, and I'm not striving, and I'm in a place of, I guess, stillness, if you like, but I'm not trying to formulate it. And some things can be that are life to some can be death to somebody else, because it could become a dead work that they're trying to do from the wrong motive. Why do I want to meditate, or why do I want to be quiet and still so I can just be with God? So my agenda is totally to just be in relationship and experience him in his presence. The meditation is not the goal. The relationship is, that may come from me giving some quality time to spend that with God. And Jesus being the truth, I want the truth to come from my experience of being in God's presence. And I think it could be that people feel pressured to try too hard to find something when the person who's sharing about it has the relational perspective themselves, but it can become secondhand information to somebody else, which means they're doing it in a more protocol-driven way, which personally I think can be unhelpful. It's like years ago, Ian Clayton used to say, well, if you can't see it, you can't have it. And then everyone just strove to see. And they're like all trying desperately to have these visions and see. And reality, I'm not sure that's what it really means to see in that context. Therefore, people ended up, well, I can't see. And I still probably get more questions from people about how to see than any other, because people are still trying to see rather than actually come to perception, if you like, or actually to a place of understanding within an experience, rather than I'm trying to see a vision. And they don't believe they're really there unless they see themselves there. Whereas actually you are there, and you don't have to see it third person. It was almost like you're observing yourself. You're there. And therefore it's more about knowing the reality of being there rather than having some Hollywood production, which I think people thought they needed to have. And how do you even know how you perceive something? I know some of the technical details about what I'm looking at from a natural sight perspective, because I'm realizing light is sort of reflecting off things, captured by the lens in my eye, is focused, onto the retina, and the retina then has optic nerves, with all the rods and cones and other things there that sends the information to my brain. Then I don't know how that really works beyond my brain. I now see, but where is the image? It's in my head, so it's the same really with all the other things about trying to do something rather than coming to a realization of the reality of what it is, and therefore being comfortable with how it works for me, which would be, knowing and feeling and sensing and having the experience without it being, what others would call seeing or visions or visual. It's just, I am there and I'm aware I'm there, just like I'm here and I'm aware I'm here. But if I was to try and work out and fathom out all of the technical details about how the sound gets to my ears and goes through all the bones in the ears and gets translated to the eardrum and then forms some sort of electrical impulse, I would spend all my time trying to just understand things rather than just enjoy them. So enjoyment and living life in a sense of enjoyment is so much easier than trying to figure it all out and analyze it and understand it and everything else. So when it comes to meditation, what one person thinks is meditation is very different from what someone else thinks is meditation. And therefore the word, what does the word mean? Well, to me, it means something. To you, it might mean something else. Therefore, words can be quite difficult if you're only going to focus on the word. Because what do I mean by meditation? Well, my experience of it, which has changed over the years. What do you mean by meditation? What does Justin mean by meditation? What do we all mean by meditation? What did God mean by meditation when he spoke to Joshua and said, well, meditate day and night? You know, well, you try and you look at the word. What's the word mean? Well, the Hebrew understanding was sort of speak to yourself and talk to yourself. And therefore it was all about, I guess, sort of creating a sort of environment where that word came alive, you know. But for me, if I was to say, well, what do you mean by meditation? Would just being in the presence of God, enjoying him, you know, that would be what I would focus on meditation. But I don't come into meditation with a pre-agenda of what that is going to be, or what God I'm going to say to God, or what he's going to say to me, or what we're going to do. I just want to be there and see what happens and enjoy it and rest there. And if nothing happens, I'm going to have a wonderful time of just being peaceful and restful. If he talks to me, that's great. If he says something, if I see something, or we go somewhere and we engage, that's great, you know. But it's hard then when you try and do what someone else does, because you're not them. You know, no one else can replicate what I do because it's me. What I can say is you can find what works for you, so you can have the same sort of relationship in the way that that works for you. And therefore it's very uniquely designed for every individual. So words, names, you know, meditation, what does it all mean? Well, it's such a broad perspective, and it will mean differently for everybody, which is so difficult then to try and explain to someone what it means to you when it means something different to them. And it doesn't mean what they think is wrong, just that's the way they come to. And it may be that they'll think differently in the future, but at the present, that's what they feel. So it's quite a difficult thing, you know, when we're trying to do things like that.
So Mike, also, wouldn't it be like, it's just, we try too hard, like just relax and just, Lord, it's your time. You want to meet with me, fine. You don't, I'm still just going to relax and think about you. That's it. Yeah.
I think we can simplify it to such a degree that it is not complicated and hard for people to do. But obviously every individual, it may be in a different state of mind. So someone might be anxious or worried or concerned about something in their lives, and then they find it really hard not to think about all those things. So it's quite hard for them to get to a place where they're just relaxed and just because their head is going round. So it's like you have to sort of almost say, well, how can that person get to a point where they're not thinking about all the things that they were thinking about? And I think that is where then you focus your thinking onto something else, like onto God, as a place to start so that you can get all those other thoughts out of your mind so that they're not distracting you. Because a lot of people find it really hard not to be distracted by sounds and things going on and thought. I mean, it's quite hard, isn't it? You know, and for some people, it's really hard because they just not learned to do it. You know, it took me a long time to be able to filter out the distractions and not be distracted and be able to engage everything with my eyes open. Yeah, which is why, you know, there are techniques that are useful for people to sort of try and learn that will help them initially deal with the distractions. And some people, that might be breathing exercises, just slowing down your breathing and then learning to think, be mindful in a moment and sort of disconnect from all the other stuff that's going on. So there's lots of techniques. Some people use music. Some people use the sound of frequencies and bowls and binaural beats. You know, so many things out there that can be helpful. And I don't know what will work for some as opposed to others. So you've got to try something. If you struggle with being distracted and not being able to focus. And I think for something, it's like when someone is really struggling with all sorts of thoughts and issues and emotions, where do you start? And you can't tell them to stop thinking about those things, because they're all the things that are going on. Yeah. And in some senses, there are techniques where I say, well, okay, write them all down and just put them on a piece of paper, and then just, okay, you've done, and now engage God. But a lot of people, you see, want to engage God about the things that they're concerned about. Come boldly to the throne of grace in time of need, which is we're told to do. But then it can become all-consuming about we're coming to God because we need him to fix this. And that can become a very, like, my prayer list type of thing, that we're just treating God like sort of, well, I'm putting my prayer request in and I want the answer. Therefore, there's no relationship in that. So in a sense, it's so complicated because people are so complicated that every individual needs to find how it works for them. And there are different things that might work for different people. So what works for me may be different for what works for Justin or what works for you. But what happens is when we try and share our experience, people try and copy the experience rather than the principles behind it. And some people might find that works for them, and some people might find it doesn't. And that's when it becomes quite difficult. So, I try to always encourage people, look, don't try and come with an agenda. Just come and find that place in God's presence that then, let him open it up. If he asks you, well, what are you concerned about? Then tell him, and talk to him about it, So trying not to make a formula about it. Well, come boldly to the throne of grace. Okay, well, I must come and I must present all my needs. And then all you're doing is focus on the negative. So I tend to always focus on thanksgiving and gratitude first before anything else. I'm so grateful that I can come into prayer. I'm so grateful, Father, that you love me. That type of thing. So that my whole focus is off myself into it, because thanksgiving and gratitude actually is very good for the mind and for the sort of what happens within our thinking, because we have all sorts of chemicals that go on in our thinking, and it's quite a very complicated process. So thanksgiving seems to program the right sense of frequency into our being, body, soul, spirit. So, but then, well, if you're not grateful for anything, how do you be thankful? So that's the problem. Some people are so focused on what's going on, they find it really difficult to be thankful for anything because they're consumed with the problem. So that, again, that's a learning process. Well, I can always be thankful for God's grace and mercy and love. I can always be thankful for Jesus and what he did, and the Father's love for me. And so you've got to build up almost a deposit of what to be thankful for when you're struggling with something, because you might not feel very thankful, but you can draw on that deposit and then start to reprogram where you are and come to a place of rest and then enter in. So it is quite difficult, and I think you can't oversimplify it, but you don't want to make it complicated either. So you've got to try and help each person to find it for themselves. That's the only way for me. Otherwise, you're giving them formulas that might not work for them, and you're not really trying to help them understand, well, where are they and what is going on with them? So yeah, it's a interesting sort of discussion, and I don't think there are any real absolute answers that you could give someone that's just going to solve all their problems and help them come to a place of rest and help them just be able to come to that place where they're relaxed and able to hear God. But learning relaxing techniques can be helpful for some who struggle to relax. I've never had a problem with relaxing, so I just lie down in my chair and just relax. But other people might really struggle with that. They might even struggle to keep still physically. just because they feel uncomfortable or they're twitching or whatever it might be. I mean, it's like, it is quite a difficult process. And I know, you can learn and you can find something that works for you, because I know Justin did he's a meditation coach or something. He did a qualification, and I think that was a Buddhist qualification. I think, it wasn't Christian. It might just have been neutral in terms of meditation, but I think it probably came from more of a Eastern philosophy. But he learned some practical things which he applied to his personal situation, which is fine. I don't have any problem learning from all sorts of sources, so long as it then goes back into, that with me and my relationship with God, and, not then focusing on what is behind a Buddhist philosophy or any other type of philosophy where meditation is used, transcendental meditation or other things, and I certainly don't believe it's emptying your mind to invite something to fill it, because who knows what you're inviting to fill it. I'd rather fill my mind with wonderful thoughts of God. So that's for me where I would focus meditation, and that could be around God's goodness or his kindness or his patience or his love, or aspects. And I'm not saying we shouldn't sometimes focus on an aspect to draw into that aspect, which is great. So focusing on peace and how to focus on peace would be a good thing, as long as you don't separate it from God himself, and it just becomes then a disconnect of something, rather than going deeper and deeper into the God who love, joy, and peace are at the center of who he is. So yeah, it's all a journey and a learning process, that's for sure. Right. Okay. Anyone else got anything they want to?
But as you're spending more time just in that place, his goodness, his kindness, it seems that you're focusing on him in that meditation, so that your fears, your anxieties, and that can fall away from you. So that
certainly, hopefully, I mean, that's the intention. Obviously, for some people, it's really difficult if they're in a really difficult scenario in life.
Yeah.
And it might not be just as easy that for some people, or it'll just fall away because they just can't focus because of what's going on and their emotions and their anxiety and their worry. And so it's, so it's learning. Yes, it is learning to engage God in the midst of that, so that you get a real full perspective on what that is, I guess. But how, well, that's the question, isn't it? It's like how works different ways for different people, and you got to find something that works for you.
Yeah, because I tend to have to go for walks and stuff because I get antsy sitting still. So I'm one of those that would be tapping my foot or something because I can't sit still for too long. Yeah. So yeah, we're all different.
Yeah, we are. And that's great, but what happens when it's 3 foot of snow? You obviously can't go out, so you got to find something that works in all different situations, that so that you're not sort of, oh no, I can't connect with God today because I can't go out, because that would be pretty sort of limiting. But there are things where some people love going to a favorite spot in beauty and looking at nature and engaging God there, which is great. But if you can't go there one day, oh no, I can't engage God today because I can't see my favorite spot. Everything can become ritual, routine, and a rut if you're not careful. So I think it's like God likes to mix it up, and I think for me, it's like there's never 2 days the same, because God does mix it up. It's never going to become boring, because everything's always different with God, because there's so many multi-facets of God to explore and for him to reveal. So it's always wonderful. So I don't sort of have an expectation of what it's going to be every day. It's like, well, okay, I'm just going to go and hang out and see what happens, and enjoy it. So,
That seems to be the one thing that you continually emphasize, Mike, is enjoy it. And maybe that's the problem. We're looking at a relationship from the wrong perspective of what we want. We should just be coming in with the idea, I'm going to enjoy myself with God today.
Yeah.
Getting together with
I guess because we're conditioned on prayer being asking for something, or always focusing on a need or a problem, that God is like the problem fixer. And I think sort of our Christian background, like you talking to the faith movement earlier, it was all about what you can get. That was mostly the focus, is what you can get. Whereas love isn't about what you can get, it's what you can give. So if I love God, how do I show that? Well, for me is like, well, if it's love is giving, it's me giving my time to be in his presence. Because actually how I feel loved is quality time in God's presence. So that's my language of love. So in one sense, well, I love God. Well, I want to be with him then. So it's not what I can get. And you could say, well, okay, I make myself available to him because I just want to be, but enjoying it, for me, it's come down to just being. And that means I'm free from having to do or perform or earn or any of the works associated things with everything that was associated with my relationship with God from a religious perspective, which very clearly was based in works and performance, because that's what most religion is. Well, all religion generally is. So I enjoy it because I'm free. I'm not feeling obliged, having duty or obligation, or I should do this or I should do that, or what will God think if I don't do this? All of those, the deconstruction of the religious programming of my mind has enabled me to enjoy it, because I don't have any of those things anymore. I'm not operating in old covenant thinking anymore. And I'm not trying to, therefore I know I'm already forgiven. So I'm not focused on what I'm not, or what I'm not yet. I'm just enjoying being in the moment with God. And whatever that is, I'm just going to enjoy it. And if it's just sitting there in a restful place and I'm lying down in a green pasture and just, oh, this is wonderful, and just feeling waves of love rolling over me, great. If we're going for a walk and he's showing me something, great. I mean, I'm going to enjoy it all, no matter what it is, because I guess that's the state of mind I'm in, because I've learned to just be, and therefore I don't have to think about any of the things I used to have to try and do to be worthy or to be good enough or to be acceptable. Any of that stuff is just not there anymore. Therefore, I can just relax and just enjoy being in his presence, enjoy everything, because it's all good. God is good all the time.
So, Mike, it's your experience now basically not necessarily a time set aside, but just the whole day?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's what I think it can become, a state of conscious awareness of that joy and peace and love all the time, that you live in it. Then can help you navigate through everything you go through on a daily basis, whether you're at work or at home or doing something with somebody or on your own. You can navigate through that and nothing changes the state of awareness and being that you're in. And so I think that's the ultimate goal for me, is like, well, that is just reality. So I don't analyze or try and work it all out. I'm just enjoying being. Things happen during the day and I navigate through those things because I'm able to. And therefore life is so much more. And because there's so less need to do all these things I thought I needed to do, I've got so much more time to enjoy life. I've got time to be in the garden and to enjoy being in the open air or go for walks, or I've got time to be in my workshop creating things and making things, because I find that works for me, and I love being creative, so I've got time. And I planted vegetable patch or sort of things a couple of years ago now, and now this year I've really enjoyed eating the strawberries and the raspberries and the rhubarb and all the stuff I planted. Now I'm enjoying the fruit of that, and in a sense I'm enjoying the communication with because I'm grateful to the plants for producing all the strawberries and raspberries, and stuff. I'm grateful because I have this connection to them, because I think it is connecting with creation. When you're in that place of peace, rest, enjoying life, creation becomes something that is very integral to life. And therefore I sort of, have thoughts, positive thoughts towards my plants and the strawberries, and there's loads of them. I've got 3 or 4 punnets in the fridge because I can barely eat them all. And it's like, oh, what a bountiful harvest, blessing, praise God that he's blessed me, and thank you for producing that fruit that is wonderful to eat and taste. So everything takes on it, everything's so multicolored and so wonderful rather than monotone gray. And everything is like, oh, I've got to get through the day. And it's like, I can always find something to rejoice in and be thankful for. And just, hey, the sun's shining. Hey, it's raining. Because, hey, that means I don't have to go out and water the garden today. It's like for some people, oh no, it's raining. For me, it's like, hey, great. Because the garden needs it. We need it. There's a sense of everything's good. And therefore when it does shine and I have to water it, oh great, here's an opportunity of blessing the garden with water. It's just everything can take on a different perspective when you see things from that positive sense that life is good. And of course some bad things have happened, and stuff I've shared about the last year was not good but life was still good, because it didn't change my frame of thinking towards God and creation and who I am and everything like that. I had to deal with the emotions of sadness that went with what was going on, but life was still good. My relationship with God was still good. It was still a rejoicing and an opportunity to still be positive. And, and I wasn't in denial, trying to deny that was difficult things happening and all that sort of stuff. But God was with me, and I was conscious that he was with me to help me frame things in the right way. And now, I'm sort of moving on and looking for, okay, what more is there to enjoy? What have you got for me in life? And so I'm positive, looking for the positive and looking for the opportunities, saying, hey, God, I'm just open to whatever life is going to bring. And my kids are like funny. They're sort of like, Dad, you need to get out more, and I'm like, what do you mean? Well, you need to mix with people. It's like, well, who? It's like, oh, so my daughter sends me a link to walking football. It's like, seriously, I'm not that old. I could actually play football. I don't need to walk and do it. Yeah, but you'd meet people. Or join the table tennis club. I thought, oh yeah, I could probably quite enjoy playing table tennis again. Maybe I'll look at that in the winter. Or when the summer's over. So they're always like trying to but I'm content. You know what I mean? It's like I am very content, but I'm also open for new adventures and new experience and new opportunities in life. So everything's a frame of mind. It's the way you frame life, how you see and perceive life, with the reference that it's always perceived through God, not independently. God is good. He'll bring good out of every situation. So this is a bad situation, but God is good. He's going to bring good out of it. So I'm looking for the good. Well, the good will be potentially lots of different things. So then I'm grateful for when those things begin to manifest. And it is funny, it's like, I was thinking, okay, sort of like, I'm quite content. I'm really enjoying life. It's not like, I'm needing anything, and it's like, I was looking sort of like, okay, what does the future hold? And it's like, well, I'm quite content with my own company and everything else. And the father said, well, that's a really selfish way of looking at it, isn't it? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, sort of restricting the fact that you could bless somebody else. You know, I'm like, oh, I didn't really think about it like that. So, but it's like you have these sort of moments, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll be open for whatever that means then. And I'm not going to determine what that means, but I'm also going to make sure I don't restrict something just because, well, I'm comfortable and used to this. You know, I'm open. So what does that mean? I don't know, but I'm not going to put any limitations and restrictions on, and make sure that my thinking maybe doesn't limit me in that the good can be the enemy of the best, because there might be something better. But I won't discover it if I'm so content with the good that I'm not prepared even to look and see, is there something better out there? You know, I'm not saying I know what that might be or not, and I'm not going to put a framework on it, but I'm also going to make sure I'm not going to be restricted by anything really. So I do enjoy life, and I enjoy all aspects of it in lots of different ways, you know, and you know, so yeah, I'm very much, you know, from in that frame of mind that everything can be a joyous opportunity every day, you know, and that's my intention and focus of being positive and enjoying and not over analyzing it and trying to figure everything out, because a lot of the stuff I don't need to know. You know, I don't need to know the ins and outs of everything. You know, I'm just so glad I'm not God who knows everything. Can you imagine knowing everything about everybody all the time? Be exhausting for someone who wasn't God. Now, fortunately, God is love and good, and therefore he can manage it. I probably wouldn't be able to, but I can sort of manage what's around me and try and stay in that moment and love focus, and not get distracted out of it by, you know, anything on the sort of concerns base, because I just don't get concerned. You know, it's like worry is not something that I suffer from, you know, so I'm not worrying about anything, you know, and just take every day and enjoy it as it comes. So today I'm going to enjoy today. I've already enjoyed today, you know, and I'm going to continue enjoying today. You know, after we finished on, you know, I've got a couple of questions to answer from someone, got a couple of people I need to talk to, and then I'll probably go out for a walk and have a break, and you know, then I'll probably go back to preparing something for Sunday when I'm doing this Patreon talk, you know, and it's like, and I'll enjoy it all, you know, and some days it'll be like, yeah, I'm free, really free, feel really free today. I'm just going to enjoy this, you know, and some days it's different, you know, some days other things will be there to enjoy, you know, so it is good, you know, life is good. Yeah.
I was listening to Benji last night, and he said that God said to him, the privilege of being God is you get to define reality.
Yeah.
And then he said, Benji said, you have to hold fast to God's definition of reality, and we align ourselves to God's perspective of reality. So
I think that's a starting point, because I want to frame everything around me from God's perspective of his heart, but I'm, as a son of God, he then entrusts me with the ability to shape my own reality in alignment with his heart. So then I'm not just subject to what might happen. I am cooperating and participating in the creating of the reality around me, because that is teaching me how to be creative for the future. So everything starts at one level and then goes deeper and deeper and deeper. But I think for me, it always goes back to Jesus only did what he saw the Father doing. So whatever reality I'm going to shape, I don't want to form that outside of my relationship with God and outside of the intentions of his heart. Otherwise, then I'm going to choose independence and something which is separate from God. And I don't want to do anything separate from him, but I do believe he trusts me to start choosing a reality and being creative about that reality, which is in alignment with his heart. But it's not fixed into only one way of expressing it. That one way will be so boring, and so restrictive. Yet God is so multifaceted, and every facet you look into has light within it, which is multifaceted. And you look into it and it's just like, wow, there's more. And then you look into it and there's more, and you look into it, there's more. And therefore, how could you ever sort of get bored with that? Because there's so much more, to everything than what you first see on the surface. So, reality and choosing reality for me flows out of the Father's heart, but it's part of my responsibility as a son in government of my own life in relationship with him. So it just helps me to focus on his intentions, his desires, his heart, and then align my heart with his heart, and then express that heart creatively through me, how he's made me to be. Therefore, I choose my reality to reflect who I am and my destiny in relationship with God. Not anybody else. I'm not looking at anyone else and what they're doing or what they're focusing on. It's flowing out of my intimacy with the Father. And therefore, it's now a state of being, which is joyous. It really is. Because I'm not focusing on the negative. It's when I look back, so much was always focused on the enemy and, well, this is happening and that's happening and got to deal with this and got to deal with that. And most people didn't have any time to enjoy anything because they just kept having to do all this stuff all the time. And a lot of it was so negative, and well, I never even give the enemy a thought. It's like not a thought. If it comes across my path, anything is hindering me being me or outworking God's heart or hindering what God is doing, well, then I'll deal with that if it comes across my path. Or if God assigns me to go and deal with something, great. But generally, I'm not going to give any room for the negative in my life. Why would I want to give that any room? So by focusing on the good and the intentional of God's desires, that will always keep us in that place of being able to rejoice, and life is good and fun. It's like laughter is such a positive thing. And I think sometimes people just, well, it's nothing to laugh at. Life is not worth laughing. Well, that again comes back to, well, it's how you see it. It's like I smile a lot, in a sense, to rejoice and to be joyful. You can't go around with a miserable, gloomy atmosphere. Everything's going to be positive. You're going to create an atmosphere around you of that reality that you're living in, which is going to be good. And it's going to have a positive vibe. And you're going to have a frequency which is good to be around. And you're generating that by rivers of living water flowing from your innermost being. So you're generating an energy of life around you coming out of the frame of mind that you're living in. Well, when you start looking around and you start looking at people, if I don't do it, but if I did, I would see a lot of negative energy, and a lot of, negative frequency of fear and anxiety and worry and anger and frustration and bitterness and resentment, which are just giving off those negative vibes, which is creating a negative. And what does that do? Draw negative things. I want to draw positive things to me. It's like, is it the law of attraction? Well, if you are miserable, then you're going to attract miserable stuff. If you're joyful, you'll attract joyful stuff. So all of those frequencies are high. And if you have the positive high frequencies of love and joy and peace and rest and all of those things, enlightenment and everything like that, then your whole body is going to be healthy. Because a low frequency draws disease. So you don't want to be sick. So have a great positive energy and frequency that you generate from within that flows out of heaven. So the reality is not just the choice, it's a lot of things around that positive energy, positive thinking, being grateful, thankful, and having that sort of particular focus of being and consciousness. It's expanding our consciousness and not being, drawn into the sort of the negative.
So also too, I guess it's like that scripture, think on these things that are good and just and, everything that's good. It makes me think of, was it Charles Capps used to always have a thing that, think positive, think good things instead of, always the bad.
And I think it also says in Philippians, think on these things which are above.
Mhm.
So often we get so caught up in all of the drama that's going around us at times that we're not focused and thinking about the where God is and where we are in the heavenly realms, and think above. There isn't any negativity there in God's presence. He's never negative. He's never got any fear, because love can't have any fear in it. So there's no darkness in him, and we're in him, so we're not dark. So you got to sort of see that, build that picture and live within it. Absolutely. And, yes, I can choose reality, but actually instinctively I can create that reality from my frame of thinking without having to sort of, I'm going to choose this, because that can be a pressure. I'm going to choose this. What reality do you need to choose today? No, I just need to live and express the reality that I'm living within my relationship with God. Otherwise it can become another sort of, here's the protocol. You go and you do this and you go that, and then you do this, and then, you choose this reality. Now I know the process, but I'm now living the process. And that is I'm constantly aware of that process, but it's not something I'm thinking about doing. I'm being creative. I'm being an expression of the reality that I choose to live in. And so many people do focus on the negative. It's like, weather's bad today. Is it? I don't think so. It is what it is today. Now, could I change it if I wanted something different? Yeah. Do I very often? No. I was out on Saturday and I was going to meet somebody, and I was driving and it was absolutely tipping down with rain. And so, okay. So now I'm thinking, what should I do? Do I need to change the weather? So I thought, I don't want it tipping down with rain. So, okay, my reality is it's not going to be raining all day, So then I'm thinking about, okay, what would I like to do? And it was interesting, because I was just thinking about how much here am I concerned and want to change something, or how am I just, okay, something good will come out of this irrespective. No, I don't want to go around and be totally soaking wet all day. So it was like, no, I'm not going to have heavy rain all day. So I got there and I parked up, walked down, and it was still spitting with rain a little bit. And then, I met up with the person, and it was like, okay, well, what should we do? Oh, well, let's go and have a tea or something. Well, I don't drink tea, but I had a glass of water. So we're able to sit down and have a chat, because, hey, that's making the best of this situation. And then it was like, we looked, the sun's shining. Oh, let's go out for a walk. So it was like, you're sort of looking and sort of making out of what is going on, what you want to change, what you can enjoy in and find good in. Otherwise, life becomes so pressured into everything's got to be perfection. Well, who's perfection? Whose version of perfection? So for me, my reality was I was going to have a really good day. That was what I chose. I chose the reality that I was going to have a really good day. And I did. Found a really great ice cream shop with about 50 different varieties of ice cream. It's like, took me 10 minutes to choose all these wonderful varieties. So it's like sitting down, chatting, eating ice cream is like, that is heaven for me. So it was like, hey, that was good. That was a good day, and that's how I think it's. Now, if I'd been like, oh no, it's like not, you could be so negative about it, but my choice was, no matter what happens today, it is going to be a good day, and I'm going to enjoy this day. And therefore, I didn't really then have to be concerned about the details of, concerned about the weather or not the weather, or I'm just going to enjoy the day, and it's going to be a good day, no matter what. And it was a good day, no matter what, because I enjoyed it and I had a great time, but I could have been sort of like anxious about the day, and then I wouldn't have enjoyed it because I'd have been anxious about it, but I wasn't. I just enjoyed the day, and it was a great day, and for me, that's the sort of the frame of mind and our consciousness and how we think about reality and think about the positives of it, rather than be too concerned with every detail of it. And if it had absolutely tipped down with rain all day, I would have still had a good day, because that's the reality I chose, and that would have been good no matter what the circumstances there. Now, certain times I might feel led to create something around the circumstances, but more and more I'm just enjoying how it is, and that is my intention, and my conscious choice of reality is this is going to be good, knowing that I can change anything I want to change, but do I want to be spending all my time thinking about what to change, or do I want to just be enjoying, and I would rather just be enjoying and having that sense of enjoyment, and it is good, rather than be too much concerned with trying to change everything to make it good.
Mike, sometimes though, when we get so many problems and stuff in life that come against us, it's sometimes really hard to think positive. Let's say you get a sick kid in the hospital or something like that. That's very hard to think positive sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, if you're looking at it, what's going on, and looking at it from a consuming perspective, but I'm looking at it from, well, here's an opportunity for God to be good. God is going to bring good out of this. So I'm looking for the good, not focusing on what might not be good, and then I'm in tune with God, because he might want me to change what isn't good. And I might be part of the process of God bringing good out of something, because he might direct me to, let's say, pray for the kid who's in hospital and see them healed. Well, that would bring good out of it. But I'm not going to presume that I know exactly what to do in every situation. I want to be close to his heart. So I'm only going to be outworking his heart in that situation. And sometimes that means trust. And I think when things don't appear on the surface to be good, that's when my trust in who God is, in my experience of God being good and love, that completely overrides anything else. And sometimes I don't understand, but I still trust, because God's good. He's never not going to be good. So if I don't understand, it's probably because it's beyond my ability to understand, or I don't even need to understand. So I don't get in trying to second guess God or trying to figure out what he's doing. That's above my pay grade most of the time. If he chooses to inform me and wants to include me in something he's doing, great. That would be wonderful. And, I have lots of those experiences, and I've had lots of those experiences where I'm included in some of an outworking of his goodness and kindness and mercy and love and all those things, which is wonderful. But if I don't know and I can't figure it out, I was talking to someone last week, and they were sort of expressing the difficulty they were going through, and they were, trying to find healing in stuff, and, and they were quite old in an age sense. And it was seemingly they were quite consumed about why they weren't healed or why they weren't this. And I got the sense where they weren't really enjoying the life that they had, because they kept wanting to change it. And I think things change out of how we embrace where we are in the minute, in our trust of God, in our relationship with God, to bring about the change rather than us trying to change it all the time. So I want to, see it from God's perspective, but sometimes I just don't know. And I got to say to someone, well, I can't give you an answer of why you're not being healed unless God tells me, and actually, even if he did tell me, I might not have permission to tell you, so I would have to make sure that I can share with you what I'm seeing or not seeing. And in the end, out of that, I felt a flow of God to speak into that person's situation with some creativity that was just not there when we started the conversation. And all of a sudden I'm saying things that I hadn't even thought. And it's just like all this stuff started pouring out because I felt God's compassion move me, and I started to respond. And it was like I saw her countenance change as something was impacting her and bringing about a sense of, whatever I shared was impacting her in a positive way. Then I thought, okay, God's blessed me and enabled me to be positive in this environment and to hopefully help in that environment. But there are sometimes I have to say to people, I can't give you an answer because I don't know. And the best place to go is for you to go back and find the answer for yourself, and God will help. And sometimes you might not have an answer. Then what do? Are you going to trust God? Or are you going to moan and complain and grumble and like start being more negative? And I think sometimes it's like, I know God is good. I know God is love. There is not a shadow of doubt in that because I've experienced that over and over again and I've encountered it. Therefore, nothing is going to shake that trust. And I don't understand why I had to go certain things and why some things I don't understand at the end of the day, but I don't need to understand. I trust God is good and he'll bring something good out of it. That for me grounds me into the reality of being able to enjoy and rejoice, even in the midst of sadness and difficulties. Because I'm not focusing on the sadness and difficulties. And sometimes I'll never understand why that had to happen. But it did. And it may be because someone chose it to happen. And, God is not going to stop someone choosing something. So you've just got to accept and come to a point of acceptance. Can I do anything to change this? No, I can't control somebody. I can't make that person do something different. Can I do anything? Well, I can just be positive, I guess, and I can, whatever, but I can't make someone do something else. So I've got to see it's about me in my situation rather than me trying to do something to change somebody else so that actually then I would be okay. And I had to come to the point of acceptance. And then in that acceptance, you find I can live in the joy of this place, even if it's not the place that I would have chosen to be, but God is good and I trust him and he'll bring something good out of it. And that to me is where I come. So I'm not in denial. Denial is just not a good place to be because it's unreality. Sometimes you accept the reality as it is and see the reality from the right perspective and then trust God in that reality you're in, that he'll show you if there's anything he wants you to do about it. And I was always asking God, well, is there anything you want me to do? What can I do? Can I, is there something I can do in this? And I just felt, no, you just need to rest. You just need to come to a place of rest and acceptance and trust me. It's like, okay, I do. Then I can't turn around and say, oh, well, you didn't do what I wanted you to do because I'm trusting you to do what you want. You're going to do whatever that is. And I'm going to trust it's going to be good. And that for me makes it so much easier just to enjoy life because I'm not focused on, sort of how can I change this? I can do this, got to do that, whatever. And I know there are some terrible things going on in the world, and there are. What can I do about it? Well, whatever's in alignment with God's heart in my destiny, and that might be something, it might be nothing. And if it's nothing, I've got to trust that God will have someone else to deal with it. And that's sort of the reality I'd eventually live in. And it's like, okay, nope, I don't have permission to deal with this. Okay, well, I'm sure you're dealing with it, God, in some way. Well, someone's at work in it, so you're at work in it, so I got to trust you. You know, trust is such a wonderful thing, because it enables you to receive, you know, without trying to get something. You know, because God is good. I trust he's good. And I know he says, you know, if you seek me, everything else will get added to you. So I'm not focused on what I don't have. I'm enjoying what I do have. And God will give me everything I need. So therefore, I don't need more than I need. And he blesses me in that. So there's a sense, again, it just brings that sense of well-being and living in that, you know, the well-being economy of, you know, being blessed, being a blessing to others by being me, but this is the me that God made me to be. And I'm still in a process of being transformed by the renewing of my mind to become that person that he sees me as. Do I see myself the same way? And sometimes probably no, if I'm honest. It's like, well, then he'll deal with what I'm thinking so that I can see it from a different perspective, you know, and then my mind gets renewed again and things change. So, yeah, I'm not saying we should be in denial about the things going on or ignore them or try and just, you know, it's like being real, but in it, living in that place of trust in God's goodness and his mercy and his love, and being open. You know, every day I'm available for whatever God has for me to do or to express or to be. And I just need to be sensitive to that and be aware of that when something comes, which is, okay, you can do this, or you got an opportunity changing that. But the majority of the time, you know, I'm not really focused on trying to change things as much as just being in intimacy with the Father face to face and enjoying it and expressing his heart in whatever way I can that day, and just being and enjoying being. So yeah, that is sort of, I think, the rest that God wants us to be in, you know, to be at rest. Yeah, not to be weary, not to be burdened, but to be at rest.
So I guess when Jesus was here, he wasn't focused so much on, boy, I got to get this done and get that done before I, you know, he just went through it, whatever. He walked each day by the moment. Not thinking, I got to get this done. I got to get that done. I better tell them this. I better tell them that.
No, he knew the Father's heart, and he was an expression of the Father's heart. He was, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. That was how expressing of the Father's heart he was. But he wasn't pressured by other people, you know, and he wasn't pressured by the enemy. And he seemed, for me, to be, I don't think you would have probably found anyone smiling as much as he did, because he was fully aware of being Son of Man, Son of God, and fully being aware of who he was and what his purpose and destiny was in that sense, and embraced it fully. You know, and sometimes that meant he challenged certain mindsets and belief systems and thoughts and understanding, because not to challenge that would have not been demonstrating love, because you don't want people stuck in, you know, lies. So he revealed the truth because he was the way, the truth, and the life. You know, now Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So just his whole being was an expression of that. And ultimately, you know, people had all sorts of expectations of what the Messiah should be. Not many of them were as a suffering servant, because it was like, well, we want the king. When's God going to restore the kingdom to Israel? And they still didn't get it, actually, even virtually till the end. They were still coming from this mindset of, oh, we want our political kingdom back. We want us to be the center of the world affairs and all of that. And just, well, my kingdom isn't of this world. in the way you're thinking. Kingdom was within, and it was like, did they get it? I don't think they got it until the Holy Spirit really filled them, and they really began to experience the reality within after, that I think began to open them up to more. I think probably John was more aware than the others of certain things, but he was still one of the ones who was asking where the kingdom was, when was it going to be restored to Israel? So there was still a sense there was work to be done in his thinking. But let God do that. I don't renew my own mind, and that's part of the problem. We were taught we had to. That's why we confessed so many scriptures and tried to change our thinking so much, and didn't work. God will renew our mind. Well, how? By showing us something different from what we already know, and then choosing that as opposed to what we already know, because that will change our mind from the experience. The truth that will set you free, not just truth. Truth is truth. Most people don't know it, and most people aren't free. So you have to experience the truth for it to become bringing that freedom and liberty to us. Be loved. That's the best thing I think anyone can do, is to let God love them. That will empower them and enable them and inspire them to love others. And then that's key. So, hi everyone, we're starting a Patreon page, patreon.com/freedomarc, and we would like to invite you to partner with us in taking the message of God's unconditional love, limitless grace, triumphant mercy to a bigger global audience.